Welcome back to the Explainer. Okay, today we're jumping straight into a totally mind-bending transmigration story. For all you focus learners out there who love a dark psychological thriller mixed with brutal supernatural survival rules, you are going to absolutely love this one. We're breaking down the incredible journey of a character named Fang Zhu. He gets pulled into a nightmarish reality where his very survival depends on literally ignoring the horrifying monsters right in front of him. It's a relentless, terrifying descent into madness, and we're going to trace every single step, every gruesome death, and every calculated move he makes. So, picture this. You wake up in a strange bed, in a room completely covered in bizarre blood-red scriptures that magically disappear the second you look at them. That's exactly how Fengu's journey begins. He realizes pretty quickly that he's transmigrated into another person's body, but get this, before he can even process what's happening, a beautiful woman walks in. She claims to be his wife and calls him down for breakfast. Seems normal, right? Well, the moment he acknowledges her, the exact moment he reacts to the giant, monstrous mouth that suddenly rips open across her face, he is instantly devoured. If he notices her existence, he dies. Period. That brings us to part 1, the deadly time loop, a terrifying save state. But here's the wild part. Death actually isn't the end for Fengu. He wakes up right back in that exact same bed, in a cold sweat, staring at the exact same blood-scripted ceiling. He realizes he is trapped in a deadly loop. And you guys, the psychological toll of this loop is just staggering. Fengu is brutally murdered 18 times in that tiny apartment. 18 times. He experiences the excruciating pain of being torn apart or eaten alive, all just because he showed a completely natural human reaction to a monster getting right up in his face. This repeated trauma completely shatters his normal psyche. It literally erases his fear and slowly replaces it with this cold, calculating rage. He is being pushed toward a very dark awakening. So how do you actually beat a loop like that? Fengu realizes he has to absolutely suppress every single human reaction. He has to fake complete and total ignorance to survive. He just stares blankly ahead, holding back absolute terror, even when this monstrous wife transforms her body into the floor he's walking on or morphs into the actual doorknob he has to grab to leave the apartment. Through sheer, terrifying willpower forged across 18 brutal deaths, he finally opens that door and steps outside. Which leads us to part 2. Welcome to the ghost world, an apocalyptic nightmare. Now, if you thought escaping the apartment meant he was safe, think again. Fengu steps outside into a red apocalyptic sky filled with deformed, shadowy silhouettes. A cute little girl approaches him, and the second he shows he can see her, boom, she transforms into a demon and tears him to pieces. It takes him up to his 20th death to finally figure out the survival mechanics of this dark world. There are basically 2 main types of ghosts here. First, the irrational, air-like monsters. They look super aggressive and terrifying, but they're completely intangible. They literally cannot harm you unless you let them get inside your head. Second, the human mimic monsters, like his wife and that little girl. These are incredibly deadly, but they're bound by a strict rule. They only attack if you acknowledge their existence. You just have to pretend they aren't there. Moving on to part 3, the Hospital of Horrors. Armed with this grim survival knowledge, Fengu's mundane real-world life suddenly crashes into the supernatural. He's called into his normal real estate job to collect a commission, but instead he finds a terrifying abandoned hospital in its place, known as B Academy. Inside, his coworkers are trapped, terrified, and totally clueless. It's his coworker Tang who finally explains the situation. The normal real estate office has dynamically overlapped with this supernatural hospital. They've crossed over into an alternate dimension completely ruled by ghosts. And Tang's warning is explicit. You cannot violate any ghost rules here, or you will die. Reality as they knew it is completely gone. To survive in this place, a human has to become something called a spiritual master. And the process is insane. First, you have to experience genuine life and death fear to simulate massive emotional trauma. Second, you actually have to make physical contact with a ghost to let its cursed power invade your soul. This is such a brilliant mechanic because it forces the characters directly into the absolute worst danger zone imaginable. To get the power to fight these monsters, you have to literally reach out and touch them while you are terrified out of your mind. Which brings us to part 4, awakening the spiritual master, and putting this theory to the test. And the opportunity to test this arrives in the most horrifying way possible. As the coworkers are trapped in this bloody, dark corridor, a terrifying ghost doctor drops directly from the hospital ceiling to hunt them. The ultimate test of survival just started. But does Fengu panic? Not at all. And this brilliantly illustrates his shift in mindset. Instead of running, he observes the ghost doctor's chillingly precise eating habits. He calculates that it takes the doctor exactly 2 minutes to consume a woman, like his tragic coworker Fifi, and 3 minutes to consume a man. While everyone else is screaming, Fangu is literally using their gruesome deaths as a calculated countdown timer. Because the doctor is distracted while eating, Fangu realizes this is his safest window to act. Relying on everything he learned from the time loop, he walks right up to the monster during her feeding frenzy and brazenly pats her legs. It's wild to watch. He's intentionally absorbing this extreme, cursed, cold energy straight into his own brain and heart. While his friends are cowering in abject terror, Fangu is actively harvesting power from a literal nightmare. But here's the thing. Fangu needs more time to absorb enough energy. And this is where we see him completely lean into his dark anti-hero era. He ruthlessly sacrifices his backstabbing coworkers to buy himself that time. When Tang tries to use Fangu as a human shield, Fangu turns the tables, kicking Tang and the chubby guy to the floor, just leaving them as bait for the doctor. He realizes a really dark truth here. Humans are stranger and often way crueler than ghosts. He feels absolutely zero remorse using them as stepping stones to survive alongside his only loyal friend, Ha. And so we hit the climax of his character arc. Fangu's humanity has all but vanished thanks to the sheer volume of gruesome deaths he's gone through. As the ghost's cold energy hits critical mass inside his body, he awakens a red spiritual sphere right in his chest. And this power scales directly with his immense trauma. Because he has suffered so deeply, his unique ability is to inflict mind distortions and pure, unadulterated pain onto his enemies. Part 5. Escaping the Ghost Doctor. A seriously lethal pursuit. Now fully empowered, Fangu and Hall shift gears from just surviving to actively trying to outrun this invincible ghost doctor. A direct physical fight is completely off the table. The escape basically turns into this incredible video game-like sequence. Fangu actually steals the ghost doctor's cursed scalpel to use as a weapon. Obviously, this enrages her, triggering an incredibly fast-paced, endless cycle of deaths at her hands. But remember, Fangu has that save-state time loop. He uses his repeated violent deaths as a brutal trial-and-error learning tool. He dies over and over and over until he perfectly memorizes all of the ghost doctor's impossible attack trajectories. He dodges her strikes by mere millimeters just to find the single safe path out of that hospital. Which takes us to our final act, Part 6, A Never-Ending Nightmare, The Fake Escape. So Fangu finally dodges the doctor's absolute last attack and sprints into a pitch-black abyss. He walks for what feels like forever until suddenly the darkness lifts. He opens his eyes and he's standing in the normal, sunlit city. The hospital is gone, the ghosts are vanished, but hold on. The relief doesn't last. This escape, it was just a massive plot twist. It's a completely fake reality. Ironically, Fangu is mad at first because a ghost-free world means he can't get revenge on his monstrous wife. But then the cracks start to show. The news reports that a fire destroyed the academy and Fangu's own dead body was found inside. A terrifying ghost eye suddenly possesses his phone screen, and when he walks back into his supposedly normal office, his living coworkers and even his boss suddenly inflate and transform into grotesque monsters right in front of him. He never actually escaped. He is still deeply trapped in a cursed nightmare. So, I want to leave you with this chilling thought to end our explainer today. If escaping the hospital only leads to a layered, fake reality where everyone you know is a monster, how do you wake up from a nightmare that literally has no end? Fangu has the power of the time loop, sure, but what good is having infinite retries if the entire game board is an illusion? It's a phenomenal cliffhanger that leaves us all desperate to see how, or even if, Fangu can break the loop for good. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, focused learners. Keep analyzing, keep questioning, and I will catch you on the next deep dive.